Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tell Me Everything. I'm your host, Danielle Spinelli. I have Mark on with us. He wrote a book. I'm having authors on, you guys. This is like becoming a thing. Okay, let's see if it's not messed up. The Tao of Pizza. Why is it blurring? The Tao of Pizza. Super cool. So definitely read it. I'm reading it as we speak. So super excited. I will give more feedback in the description and stuff. Hopefully I'll be done by then, but I'm a very slow reader. I think it's my ADHD. I'm not the best reader, but so far so good. And I love it. Anyways, I have a different set today. As you can tell, I'm actually in Florida at my dad's house. We were just at Orlando. It's spring break for my kiddos. So we were just at Orlando at Disney, had a lot of fun there. So then drove up to my dad's house here in Jack's Beach and took over his office. So I had to like recreate this thing. You can't see it because I took it out, but he has one of those like endo machines where you like lay and you're like upside down. So that was right here in the background. And I'm like, I have to move this. So anyways, it would have been funnier, I think, if I kept it. But anywho, let's talk to Mark. So Mark has his own company for warehouse racking. I will plug all the information in there. Like I said, he has a book and just a great guy. So let's bring him on and let's get to know Mark.
Tell me everything.
Tell me everything.
Well, I am so excited that you're on here. Thanks so much for joining me. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, I'm glad to be here too, Danielle. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny because I was just on your podcast. I'm like, now you got to come on mine. You get to do the interviewee. Isn't it funny as like a host whenever you're so used to like asking questions and then it's like reversed and you're like, wait a minute. Is that weird for you?
It's actually, for me, it's a lot easier to be on this side. And just because it's easier because I kind of know what I want to say and I like talking anyways.
Right.
And what's interesting is our episode just got published. I'm going to post it today on LinkedIn. So it was just kind of interesting how that worked out down to the day.
That's awesome. That's so fun. Yeah. I mean, luckily I don't know if everybody knows this or not about my show, but like, I don't really plan anything. It's just more like, let's have a conversation and hang out. So it's kind of like me doing that. But obviously like sometimes I run into people on the show that are like, they don't have like a personality like you do. So it's like, you're like crawling and like, let's talk, it's just me blabbing. So
Yeah. Well, it's the Tell Me Everything podcast. So I can't wait to share it. And I'm willing to share everything.
tell me everything. Okay. So tell me everything. How did you get started in the industry? What exactly do you do? Say your name, do your whole little spiel, and then let's get into everything.
Okay, so I'm Mark Hiddleson, and the company I own is called Specialized Storage Solutions, and we do mostly it's pallet racking, but we really help companies optimize their space. So we do anything inside a warehouse, conveyors, racking, carts, and we help people with the design, the flow of their warehouse. And so we basically do everything from the layout, the quoting, installation, design. And one of my specialties is doing permit processing. So we would do permits all over the country. And it's just for our projects too. Some people find out we do permits, other contractors like, you do our permits? It's like, no, but for our projects, we do. It's a lot of red tape. And so I've been doing this for 30 years, right out of college. And so it's just something that.
How can that be when you're 30 years old? That doesn't make sense.
Right out of kindergarten. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So is that how you got started in freight, was just directly into warehousing, or?
So the freight is because we ship so much material. I mean, so we're buying, a lot of what we do is we do liquidation. So say somebody's closing down a warehouse and right now we're doing one in North Washington. And then our yard's in California, Northern California and Southern California. So we're shipping freight all over the country, usually truckloads. Like, a lot of times just one truck here, two trucks there, but sometimes we'll do a project where it's 100 truckloads or 30 truckloads. And so the freight side has always interested me because it's part of what we do. And what's interesting about what we do is it's not the core competency of our clients. So when you do a racking job, they're used to receiving freight, pallets or whatever their industry in. Maybe it's the lumber industry. We do a lot with 3PLs and they're used to their stuff. But when it comes to a racking project and you've got 20, 30 foot long uprights and all these flatbeds and there's no dock, it's hard to get stuff inside the building. So I'm passionate about kind of all the aspects of the business that are involved, not just what we do, because everything affects everything in this business, and if the trucks aren't on time or, we just had one. I was thinking about you this morning because we recycle a lot of material and recyclers are famous. I mean, I love recyclers and they're my best friends. They're one of my best clients. They're so tough to deal with. And we lost a truck and we had 8
No.
loads are going in and we're sending them a text. Okay, this load's going, this load. So yesterday, my broker is off at like 3 o'clock because everything you're in the business, so you get up at like dark 30, so you're done
Yeah.
by 3. And I'm looking for a POD, proof of delivery. It's like
No.
probably $3,000 or $4,000. I mean, we always find it, because there is
Yeah.
a paper trail. But we did have it was funny one time. It was a different broker. She was a funny gal, and she's trying to get hold of me, she couldn't get hold of me, and she goes, "Well, I couldn't get a hold of you." So they didn't know what to do with the recycling yard, so they just gave the driver $6,000 in cash. I go, "What?" I go, "Why did you do that?" And she goes, "Well, he didn't speak English and he didn't know
Oh
where he was
my
going."
god.
I was like, "Well, he didn't speak English. He didn't know where he was going. So you gave
Yeah.
him $6,000 in cash." Well, that totally
I
makes
think
sense.
that'd be the opposite reason why I'd give somebody $6,000 cash. Like, "Hey,
Yeah.
here you go." That's hilarious.
And she goes, "This guy's mad because he has to turn around." Why did he take the money?
That's
So
wild.
yeah, that's how, yeah, we met at Manifest because I'm interested in that is like a huge event where to me, it's a blender of all the latest ideas of what people are doing with
Mhm.
technology and especially how people are networking, creating, dynamic alliances because with the project, you never know what kind of 3 or 4 players you have to pull together to pull something
Yep.
off. And so that's why I was stoked to
Yeah.
meet you and stoked that you had a podcast and
I know. It's so fun networking. Like, honestly, every event, you're like me, like we're people. So it's like, as soon as I get to meet new people, I'm like, let's go. So like, as soon as I got to go to my first conference, I mean, I was like, is this heaven? I didn't know this was existed just to gab and meet people. And it's crazy how you meet one person and it just like the avenues keep opening to different people, especially, being somebody that, I try to treat everybody that I meet, even competitors or whatever, with love and all that stuff too. So I think if you have that type of like, you're that type of person, it shows.
yeah. So in our business, your competitors are your potential collaborators. I've said for years is collaboration over competition because everybody
Hmm.
has a niche. When we specialize in used equipment, not a lot of people do as much used volume as we do. So if somebody does mostly new stuff and they've got a client who needs used, they can use us to supply the material or, we're licensed in California. California is a real popular belief. California is hard to do business in this
Oh,
state.
really? Well, there's a lot
There's
of
so many.
permits and like red hoops, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
California is just the worst. Like we did a project in Texas. We turned in all the same paperwork that we do in California, and they were like, "Oh, you could have just called this in."
You're like, why did this isn't like a burn permit?
Yeah,
I didn't know you could just call it in. That's
yeah.
crazy.
So
Yeah.
that's our niche, but yeah.
So I guess being in business as long as you have and then learning all the permit pieces, is that just kind of like trial and error, learning how everybody is, and then you kind of have a system? Or because that to me is like probably the biggest nightmare I'm sure you deal with.
It really is because we have no control. Like you can choose your
Yeah.
suppliers. Like we try to vet our suppliers where we have the best suppliers, if they say, and nobody's perfect. So there's always mistakes, but you don't have a choice with the building department. And it's like, if you're going to do it there and, I don't know what makes it hard is just kind of the same thing. Our stuff is different and it seems to me like they make it harder than it should be. Especially
Yeah.
in California, you see how easy they do it everywhere else. But for me, it's funny. I've evolved. I helped the company I used to work for back in 2005 start their own permit processing division. And back
Mm.
then, I was one of the first people to start pulling permits because this racking's changed a lot. Like in 1997, when I started right out of kindergarten, they a lot of people didn't get a permit or they didn't even oh, you need a permit for racking? Like we didn't know you needed. So I was one of the first ones to be like, yeah, you do. And if something falls down, everybody could get in trouble if you don't have it. Or really people started to get called on it. They would come in and
Mm.
something would be wrong. Usually there's no anchors like racks. They have to be anchored to be safe. And so like annual fire inspection will come in and say, hey, these racks aren't anchored. So you must not have a
Mm.
permit. And so then they need to go retroactively and get it. So that's really how I learned. And I started telling our team, like, we should be proactive and we should be doing the permits ahead of time. And so we
Yeah.
started a permit. But back then, it was people had CAD, but I've always been kind of a cut and paste guy. So, like, I would get the old building blueprints and then cut out the racking and then tape it on there and then
Oh,
scan
funny.
it. Yeah, we would have an engineer do the engineering, but for the layout and, they were really pretty simple sets. But over the years, 12 years ago, I hired somebody full time just to do the permit part of it. It was taking so much
Yeah.
of my time. It's one of those things I kind of love to do because it's hard and I feel like I'm better at it than anyone else, but it's not the greatest use of my time where
Right.
I'm getting bogged down with all this engineering stuff. And I love my engineers too. The engineer we work with is Seismic Inc. Nancy Fatine is the president. I've had her on my podcast. She's a lot of fun. She's somebody I'd like you to introduce. Um, but engineers are a pain in the ass. And
Yeah.
Nancy's not an engineer. She's got 60 working for her. But it's a different level of communication, execution. For me, everything's urgent, like if you
Yeah.
want something, like I have a commitment. If you call me, I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes, 2 hours, or 24 hours. And then if I don't, it means something happened. But engineer, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's an interesting blend of expectations.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so with fracking, so basically, just to like dumb it down for me,
Yeah.
is basically like the big things that like you go into a warehouse and it's like all the way to the ceiling. It's like making sure that that's all secure so that it's not toppling over on people and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. There's a huge design. So here's another great example. So we just bought 1,500 sections or a lot of racking, 150 truckloads of racking in Southern California. It was engineered to go in Southern California, which is really high seismic. And we sold some to Texas and the exact same racking, how it is, it's rated for 5,000 pounds of level. We just supplied the same rack. We're trying to sell it to a company in Washington, and the
Mm-hmm.
lows were as low as like 750 pounds per level. Just because of the location, the size of the foot plates, the rules change
Oh,
every year.
interesting.
And so, yeah, the difference. And so now we're having to weld on bigger foot plates, and we were even maybe had to reinforce the bracing. So there could be a huge, like it's the exact same rack. You're like, wait a minute, it's put together the same. It's
Yeah.
anchored the same. It's in a building. So there's a huge uh, difference in capacity. So that's one of the reasons I'm good at it is if you have $150, 150 truckloads worth of material, you have to figure out where you can
Yeah.
sell it and how you can
Right.
make it.
Well,
So
it's interesting because, like, so just like to relate, my basement, I have like a storage room area and I was trying to build it. I have so much holiday decor. It's insanity. And so I have like my Christmas stuff over here, Halloween, Easter, whatever. And so I was building my own shelves. Like I was going to DIY my own shelves. I should have just called you and been like, you need to build my shelves for me. Like,
yeah,
"Hey, make this be a racking." And yeah, it was a nightmare. And then after I got done, like anyways, I didn't measure things. It was bad. I didn't measure things right. So that it's basically just to show you I was thinking the box was this big, but then you didn't think about like the angle to get it in there and like stuff like that. And so you just got to think about all the things. Well, clearly you guys are doing that. This is like
yeah,
little me trying to relate, by the way.
it's one of the greatest stories of all time. I'm in Napa, which there's a lot of winery here, so become a
Mhm.
wino living here. But also a lot of our good clients are winery. They're not huge projects. But I went to them, they're like, we're out of space. The guy was Tom Davies, is a good friend of mine. And so I'm looking at other opportunities. I go, what's all this over here? And he goes, oh, that's our Christmas decorations. And they were kind of scattered out and they were in front. And I was going, they were pulling a lot of their orders because they sell wine from there. So it's kind of a warehouse situation because they're selling wine at the tasting room, but then they're pulling
Mm,
orders to ship for like direct to consumer and everything. So I was like, yeah, we can create this great spot for the Christmas stuff way up high where you only need to get to it once a year. So you can put it
right.
way out of the way where they didn't even have a forklift that would reach that high, but you could just use a scissor lift once a year to get the bins down as Christmas time and then put them back. That's our
Or
system
you
in
could
my
be
house.
like me and scaling. I would just scale it and try to throw it. It'd be like throwing it down. I'm just kidding. Don't do that, by
No.
the way, everybody. That's a violation of OSHA, I'm pretty sure.
There's lots of violations of somebody was asking me what the OSHA rules were about something and I was like, I don't think there's a ruling on that. And
There's not. You
well,
would think that there would be with well, maybe. There's gotta be on racking
yeah,
and whatever. I'm sure there's been enough like people that didn't do it right and things happened.
that's the thing in most warehouses. Usually people are doing something that you wonder if it's and warehouses are really dangerous. That's one of the things I've learned. It seems pretty benign. You go in there. I mean, forklifts look really cool and everything. They don't look like they're going that fast, but they
Yeah.
weigh 15,000 pounds and they're usually carrying a 2,000 pound pallet. So
They weigh 15,000 pounds?
yeah,
That's
well,
like more than
forklift.
a
So like
truck.
a 5,000 pound forklift weighs 10,000 pounds. So
Mm.
but
Wow.
then it can hold a 5,000-pound load. So that's 15,000
Wow.
because it
I
has to
did
have a
not know that,
5,000.
by the way.
Yeah, it's weird. So even if you just bump into something kind of slow,
Yeah. You're wrecking stuff. That's like
yeah,
yeah. That's like Wreck-It Ralph in there.
it is. And they're really quiet. I mean, lifts are really quiet, so you don't really hear them coming if, I don't know, the warehouse is noisy. So, and the dock is actually the most dangerous part of the warehouse. Did you know that?
That's interesting. No, I didn't know that. I haven't spent any time in a like, the only time I've spent is, like, for the broker who had their own warehouse area or whatever, which they need
Uh,
to use your racking, clearly. But anyways, they, like, showed me around their space, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, this is crazy." So that's, like, my only experience. No one will let me in there, I think. They're probably like, "This girl, if she gets on a forklift, she's gonna kill someone."
yeah, or near a forklift. Yes,
Near.
it's dangerous. And so, but it takes a lot to run a warehouse too. I mean, everyone's under pressure. You're moving heavy loads, and I've really liked it. It's kind of an exciting business.
Yeah.
I run into a lot of problem solvers. It seems like you're a problem solver. Like you got
Yep.
into vetting carriers and fraud and all these
Mhm.
interesting things about your business. I'm kind of the same
Yeah,
way.
I know. I've definitely gotten into like the detective mode, but same thing. Like, there's a problem, and like, how do we fix it? Or and I think that that actually stems back from like my first job. So my very first job, or my first real job, was at a call center. I worked for Windstream, but it was like a phone, internet, TV type thing. I was in the call center selling, but like, you would have like somebody call in like a problem on their bill, and I was like, okay, let's fix this as fast as possible so that way I can start selling. And like, how do you transition someone super angry into a sale? And so it was like that whole problem solving piece of it was so fun to me. And yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's where it started.
Because once it happens once, and that's what I learned. So my early training, one of my first, I don't even consider my real job, but I was in the car business for 5 years while I was in college. Like I sold
Mhm.
magazines over the, well, I started out mowing lawns. Like my first real job was mowing lawns. And in college, I transitioned into sales because I'm like, wait a minute, you can make good money because I didn't have that much time to
Mhm.
work. I was going to school. But in the car business, Chrysler, I had a lot of training with Chrysler. I was a Chrysler Gold certified rep, and they
Ooh.
called them shining star moments. And what it really meant is if somebody was really pissed off, and the more pissed off, the and they called it a
Yeah.
shining star moment. And it's like that's your opportunity to take
Yeah.
somebody, really make a difference. And I was shocked. Some people were still really, really mad at you, but most of the time, if you took the time, you kind
Yeah.
of knew. Hey, there's a show called Parks and Rec. I just started working. Have you heard of that show? It's a long time.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the character that Rob Lowe plays on there, where somebody would ask for something, he goes, "That's a great idea. We should do that. I think we're going to try to make that happen." And he would look to the other guy. It's the brother from Step Brothers. And he asked him if he could
Yeah.
do it. And he'd go, "No, we can't do that." Like, that's kind
That's
of the
so funny.
way you solve, right? You jump in, like, "I'm glad you made that suggestion. I'm going to go right to the manager. I'm going to tell him what you said. I'm going to ask for them to do that."
Yeah.
And they usually come back and go, "Well, they said we couldn't do it." But at least you tried, you know?
Yeah. At least you cared enough to think of something, think of a solution. I think that definitely matters for sure.
Yeah. And then you usually can find a solution. They see like you're trying. It's not just like you just want to, blow them off. So I've
Yeah. I think
enjoyed.
it's that human element of having empathy, and then they're like, "Oh, this person does care." So then you start listening, and that's kind of like a sales. I feel like that's sales 101, honestly.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. So after your last podcast, you're like, "Hey, I'm sending you my book." And I'm like, "Well, you wrote a book? Who are you?" And
Yeah.
so you sent me your book,
You
The
got
Tao
it.
of
Awesome.
Pizza. I
Yeah.
know. Thanks for sending that. So tell me about that. How did you even get to where you're like, you just woke up and was like, "I'm gonna write a book"? Like, how do you that's a lot of work.
It was the joke for a while is I was saying that this project took me 8 years, but I was saying that for 2 years. I was telling people like, man, they're like, "Oh, this is taking a long time." I go, "Yeah, it's taken 8 years." And so it was 9 or 10 years in
Wow.
early 2000s. I got my master's degree. I was going to get an MBA, and the economy was kind of tanking a little bit. And I was in sales, and I was a little frustrated that my sales were being affected by the bigger economy. So it's like, how can I kind
Yeah.
of insulate myself from that? And education, I'm kind of a school guy. I really like school. I like studying. I like research and writing. So instead of getting an MBA, though, I got a degree in holistic health education,
Mm.
which because I was fascinated by the mind body problem and how because I was an athlete. And so I try to use a lot of the stuff I learned by training to be an athlete into sales, because sometimes if
Yeah.
you're nervous or you're scared, then your speech gets messed up. So you have to find ways to or the way you show up, being positive,
Right.
solving problems. So the mind body thing always got, because your mind, especially in sales, if you start listening to people or you get a lot of rejection, it can kind of start to go down negative path. So, anyways, I wanted to study mind body health or whatever. And then I
Yeah.
was like, the other thing is, if you're not healthy, it doesn't matter. Being
Right.
healthy, being able to perform at a high level for your whole life, it has a lot to do with health. So that took me down this wild path that uh, it just opened up the way that I look at things
Uh,
differently. So I always kind of thought I would write a book because I've done things differently. Like most people who are racking have an engineering and construction background in this kind of company, and why get a degree in holistic health? But it made a huge difference. One of the things I was thinking is to go into like coaching or executive coaching or doing something like
yeah.
that. But I got so stoked about what I was already doing and ways to apply this just to my own life and sharing, speak at public engagements. Just more of an approach to life of seeing things through different lenses. And so my book,
Yeah.
starts with the mind, body, spirit lenses. Like, it's all different ways of seeing the world. And so I just thought someday I'm going to write a book. And I was doing it was like a 90-day challenge or something. I was part of a group. It was called a mastermind. Have you heard of mastermind? I don't like the fact that they call it mastermind because it sounds
I
kind
don't
of
know if I've
douchey
heard
to
of
me,
that.
but it was like 5 or 6 men in the middle is what it was called. So you're like 35 to 45 and just like, what's my next thing that I'm going to do? And after
Mm,
90 days of that and journaling and writing and doing all this stuff, it's like, well, my next thing I think is writing and publishing a book. That would just be a great something to pour myself into with my passions. So,
yeah.
so that's how it started. And it was just a wild journey. I mean, I've got stacks and stacks of journals. It's funny. I was going back trying to figure out what year did that happen? What year did that happen? And all my journals, they're dated, but not everywhere. So I had to keep
Yeah.
flopping through, like, what's the date? What's the date? What's the date? And I got through
That's
this whole
funny.
book, and it was like 9 years ago. And a lot of the stuff that I was
Wow.
writing down 9 years ago are in the book. So it was just kind of a weird and awesome
No,
process.
yeah, I'm sure that was super, like, rewarding when you were finally, like, done and published it and stuff like that. But I think that's an interesting concept. So I was actually just listening to the podcast with Theo Vaughn and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You need to listen to it if you have not listened to it. But it's funny because Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if you non-politics aside, he's doing a ton of great stuff for, like, our health and making like the red dyes are getting out of our food. Like, my son has ADD, and, like, I can watch that kid have red dye and just start pinging off the walls. And I'm like, what did you eat? And so that body element and him talking about like how that relates to mental illnesses and all this other stuff, like you don't really know how taking care of your body means so much. And then aside from that piece as well, I've learned like as a person, if my mind is not in the right headspot where I'm like wanting to, like I said, I'm a big people person. So if I get like socially where I don't want to be around people or I force myself not to or whatever, I can tell that whole trickle effect on my body even. Like, so it's funny how it kind of all wraps in together. So,
Yeah, your body is this huge. Well, that was the biggest thing too. The mind body problem in philosophy is called the hard problem. And that's really
mm,
because the mind and body is not two separate things. And so the problem
right.
is trying to figure out what's mind and what's body. And the solution is it's not mind and body. It's one body
Yeah.
mind, and it's totally connected. And your body's such a, like, for me and being an athlete, I always thought like mind over matter, of kind of like
Yeah.
you could mentally, like, you wanted to train harder, you wanted to run faster, you wanted to do things a certain way. But then in studying it, it's almost really, I mean, you need both. There's that, but your
Yeah.
body is this huge source of information for everything, that if you slow down and pay
Interesting.
attention to it, there's this huge gift of, and you develop senses you didn't even know. Like in my book, I say one of the gifts we have as humans is the sensation of 6 senses. And so we really
Mm,
say those 5, touch, smell, whatever, but there's probably more than 6, but I just
yeah.
wanted it to be a S and more than 5. It's a sensation of 6 senses, alliteration, make
Hmm.
it easy to remember. But it's just so, I don't know, it's an important part. I think our society in general, and me, it gets stuck in my mind. Like you're
Yeah.
talking, if I go down a certain road and then my body will start feeling like shit. Well, you can get out
Right.
of it with movement, like just by
Yeah.
movement, or I've done a lot of funny stuff, but there was this qigong. Qigong is a martial art that I practiced in school, and it's kind of like Tai Chi, but it was weird at the
Mm,
end. There was a thing that was full blossom, and you end up like you can't see it. Was you have your hands like this, and I'm like I'm in
yeah.
full, and you feel you're like I mean you go through the whole thing, and it's a set of movements, but by the time you get to here, you're like this is full blossom. This is different, and so
Yeah.
it's so funny. I get chills because like you can do something like that. Will just bring you back the change
Right.
is a state change. It can go from being really crapped out and depressed to be like, wait a minute, like I could be here.
Which is funny because, like, I suffer from depression or whatever, and even on medication and stuff. But so it's funny because for me, let's say if I get in that mindset or whatever, I have to, like, I actually have a post-it note in my room where it's like, it just says get up. And so it's just like, because I'll get to where like I just want to lay in bed and not talk to anybody. And like, which is so not like me. Like, I usually have a million things going on, a million to do lists. I'm doing anything and everything. I'm meeting anybody and everything. So whenever I'm like in my room and I don't want to get up, that's whenever I know something's going on. And so anyway, it's just that simple reminder, like just get up and start moving. And that usually pulls me out. But it is interesting how like even whenever you learn about like depression, that's something that they talk about a lot is like if you're soaking in a bed type thing and not moving, how much that can just keep you there, no matter what you're doing mind wise or stimulating or whatever. It just is such a difference.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of practices. I mean, I can't imagine without it. And I think of one of the habits I picked up in graduate school is meditating. And it's become where I don't even go, okay, I'm going to meditate for 7 minutes. It's just, I find myself doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't. And then I can tell the difference. If I don't,
Yeah.
I'm a whack job sometimes. So you get to the end was so I got so pissed off. And it was funny. I'm in this small group and people were talking about if you're quick to anger. And I was like, oh God, thank God I'm not quick to anger. And then I'm thinking, well, am I quick to anger? Because I am kind
Yeah.
of, especially in business, I'm like driven, oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you miss this? What is this? Oh, what the fuck? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'll snap, but I'll come back very quickly. You know what I mean? I'll be
Right.
really, and then it was within like 2 days. It's funny when you ask about something will come up and answer your question. But I was trying to we got this new travel trailer and it has all these problems. Like the refrigerator doesn't work, the shower door broke and everything. So it's
Mm,
kind of a pain about to take it in there. Now they have like this phone system where they call in and they do like triage over the phone to help you kind of
mm,
see if you can fix yourself,
right.
which I thought was kind of cool. But they only had one appointment. It was whatever. And then
Right.
it was super important. The guy was calling me and it wasn't hooking up on my phone. And it would come like he could hear me. It was on my Bluetooth on the phone and then we'd hang up. And I was like, oh, and then it happened and I couldn't figure. And I'm like, I'm going to lose this appointment. And it's going to be a week. And I was just like, I got so mad. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is a repair thing on a trailer?
Right, right.
And then,
It's so funny. But
yeah. And then,
it so happens like that. You just kinda get in you're, like, in your thing, and you're like, "How do I kinda separate?" That's interesting.
but I talked myself into it. Like, this is the only
Yeah.
trailer appointment I'm ever going to get in a million years. And this has to be and the phone. It's the fucking phone and da, da, da.
Right.
And, so then I was like, well, maybe I have more stuff to work on.
Right. Well, we're always needing to be worked on. So it's like that sparked a memory for me. So like whenever my kids were younger and Pinterest became a new thing, I was like
Wow.
I think a lot of moms suffered from Pinterest mom. And it was like you felt like you had to be freaking like the birthday parties better be Pinterest worthy. Like everything had to be perfect. And I was way over the top about those things. And like one birthday, it was like something didn't work out right or something didn't get delivered right. There's multiple things. Like the cake wasn't done in time, something else didn't get delivered, this fell over, this broke, the kid broke this. I mean, it was like I was like, this is an epic fail. And I just fucking lost it. Like I was like screaming at everybody and like losing my mind. And finally I like calmed down. I go back to the room and I'm like, this is just a stinking birthday party. Like it was like a sixth birthday party, a sixth birthday party. It's not
Yeah.
even like a first birthday party, even. You know what I mean? So it's like, who
Yeah.
cares? So then after that, I just was like, we're not doing birthday parties anymore. Sorry, kids. Like I can't take it. Clearly, I have a problem. But anyways, it's kind of like getting out of that mindset of like, this is like the only thing that matters. And this is all the things and like stepping back and like Especially, it's funny because I think, they always say like first world problems. I think all of us
Yeah,
in America suffer from that. And so it's
yeah,
like just reflecting on like, is this really that big of a deal? If I was in another country, would this really even matter?
yeah, yeah. We're so lucky here. Yeah, from the
Yeah.
opportunities to the first world problems that gets brought up a lot in our family. The things we're complaining. I talked to another good friend of mine that he was my mentor. So I've been doing this business for 30 years. My mentor today, and he goes, I find myself complaining more than I used to. Well, I get that too. I was kind of in my 30s and 40s. It's just like, oh, this is no sweat. But now it's like, oh man,
Yeah,
get
this is
off my lawn.
inconvenient.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn. Yeah, get your dog off my lawn for Pete's sake. That's funny.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. This was so fun, and I could hang out with you forever. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. This is awesome. Thank you.
How can everybody reach you, your business, get your book? How can they do all the things?
So the best way to get my book, you could get a free chapter of my book, which I think would be
Oh,
the best
really?
way to get started.
Yeah.
Go to taoofpizza.com, which is the title of the book. It's TAOOF pizza.com. And I'll send you a free chapter. It's available anywhere you buy books. So every, Goodreads, anywhere you buy books online, you can get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then if you want a copy like you have, there's only 100 copies of the one like I sent you. They'll have to send me an email to Mark Hiddleson at AOL.com.
You have an
So
AOL email address?
I do, I give it the podcast listeners. I have a work email, and actually the one we've been communicating on is a Gmail account, but yeah, I have the AOL
That's so funny.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like it. I like the old schoolness. It's cool. So hit them up on AOL, everybody.
Yeah, I have AOL Premium, and specialracks.com is our website
Okay.
for the racking. And LinkedIn. LinkedIn's also a great way to connect. I want to be the first to say thank you very much. Great to meet you, and glad we got to connect again like
I
this
know.
on the
I'm
interview.
excited to see my podcast with you, by the way. I'll share that today if you post it.
Yeah, I'll post it today.
Perfect. All right. Bye, everybody.